Onto this headline story now. Judgment is expected to be delivered in the High Court sitting in Palm Ridge, that's in Ekurhuleni, in the case against Sifiso Mkhwanazi, who's accused of the murder of 6 sex workers. The 22-year-old admitted to his father about those killings, but denied that the murders were premeditated. He's also denied the rape and defeating the ends of justice charges against him. Our reporter, Offense Sedimo, is part of our team tracking developments and joins us now just from court. And Offense, there's been a lot of attention around this particular story, especially because of how extraordinary some of the details are. I mean, this 22-year-old accused of hiding the bodies in his father's factory at some stage. Let's begin with a recap of what we've heard in court so far.
Well, thank you very much. I can actually explain that, initially the first witness to testify was the caretaker who was managing the building at which the panel beating warehouse where Sifiso Mkhwanazi's father was actually operating. We understand that he found a foul stench on October 2022 at the premises where his father actually operates. And upon further investigation, that's when the first body was actually discovered at that particular panel beating warehouse. And eventually after that, he alerted Sifiso Mkhwanazi's father, because that's where he actually operated, that there is actually a dead body there. And upon, that gruesome discovery, that's when they actually approached the Sifiso Mkhwanazi after, some of the security personnel who actually work on the premises actually admitted that the last person they actually saw entering that particular building was Sifiso Mkhwanazi with a female companion. And when they approached Sifiso Mkhwanazi for answers, he actually tried to run away, and when he was caught, he actually explained that he had forgotten something in the house. But then the police were actually called in, and they actually went through some of the CCTV footage that actually showed that in exactly what the security personnel actually said, that Sifiso Mkhwanazi was the one who entered the premises with a female companion, and in fact that's when he was actually arrested. Then further investigations actually took place on the premises, and that's when other bodies were actually discovered. One was discovered in a chimney, another one was discovered in a panel van that was actually on the premises and on other premises, and on other spots in that particular panel beating area. And we understand that about 6 bodies were actually discovered there. Then he was actually charged with 6 counts of murder, 6 counts of rape, and counts of defeating the ends of justice, and also an illegal possession of firearm and ammunition. But there was another charge that emanated from 2021, which, according to him, in his admission to some of these charges, he actually said that he was prompted to go after some of these women because in 2021, he actually solicited the services of a sex worker, and after doing the deed, when he was supposed to pay the fee that they had agreed upon, that particular sex worker reneged on that particular agreement, saying that she wants more money, and with him actually refusing to actually pay that money, that's when, the lady actually charged him with rape, and he spent about 10 months in prison, awaiting trial until he settled with the lady, and then those charges were dropped. So in his confession to his father, who was actually the state witness, the father explained that he was angered by that particular 2021 incident, and then he actually went after Zimbabwean sex workers, as that particular sex worker who initially laid charges against him of rape was a Zimbabwean sex worker. But unfortunately, as I mentioned, that initially the rape charges were 7. That particular charge was actually dropped by the court, as the lady did not actually come forward to actually come and testify, as she was one of those fortunate enough to have actually survived the murders that actually took place after the sexual intercourse. And I can mention that Sifiso Mkhwanazi actually made an admission under the Section 220 of the Criminal Procedure Act that yes, he did murder those women, but he says the murders were not premeditated, and he was actually denying the rape charges, saying that the sex was actually consensual, and that eventually after the deed was actually done, all of these women actually reneged on the agreed fee for the sex, leading to him panicking that he might suffer the same repercussions of which he suffered with the 2021 incident, leading to him actually killing them, trying to avoid an incident of him actually spending time in jail. But then in court, there was a trial within a trial after he had, made an admission that in fact he was coerced to actually make that particular confession to his father, which was actually eventually admitted in court. But in a trial within a trial, his defense counsel, Advocate Violetu Makatuka, had argued that, he was actually not in his right frame of mind, and in fact he was coerced, and in fact he was not read his rights before he made that particular confession. But then, the court heard that in fact there was no police officer, according to the state advocate, to actually mention that, there was no police officer who was present when he made the confession. In fact, he was just with his father, and, because his father is a layman, he's not someone who's actually going to read him his rights, when he made the confession that, he actually killed the women, and in fact he killed them trying to avenge himself after the 2021 incident of which he was, according to him, falsely accused of a rape charge.
Yeah, oh my goodness. I mean, some of the details here are incredibly chilling, Offense. And at the start of this particular case, the parents were adamant that their child is innocent. And I'm using the word child because it shouldn't be lost to us that this individual, who's essentially admitted to killing 6 people, is only 22 years old. How would you describe the disposition of the parents as they watched all of these details being ventilated in court?
Well, the parents, as I mentioned, the father, Mark Khumalo, actually turned state witness and actually testified against his own son. And at some point, they tried to discredit some of his testimony, trying to say that, he's actually saying all this stuff because to a certain extent, maybe he might be a bad parent to the son. But to actually the court's satisfaction, he actually said that if he was someone who had the best interest of his son, he would not have turned state witness. But because he does have the best interest of his son, he turned state witness, and in fact he tried to a certain extent to try to convince the son, after he had admitted to his father that he had committed some of these matters, to say that no, confess to the court, tell your lawyer what actually happened, and maybe the court might be a bit lenient upon you. But after he had consulted his lawyers, Sifiso Mkhwanazi decided that no, that's not the route he's actually going to take. And we understand that earlier on, when the trial actually began, he actually wanted to bar his father from visiting him while he was incarcerated, saying that his father is actually trying to convince him to confess, which is something that he actually did not want to do. And that's something that actually led to that trial within a trial, trying to test the admissibility of his confession to his father, to see that if it can be admitted in court, resulting in the fact that it was admitted in court and it was used against him eventually.
Sure. Offense Sidima doing a great job at distilling some of the details around this particular case. For now, thanks very much indeed. Offense's live to us there from the High Court sitting in Palm Ridge, that's in Ekurhuleni.